Hello, everyone. It's great to be with you today for a live Q&A with Senior Kabbalah Instructor Tony Kosinec. If you want to ask Tony a question, just type it in the chat. Also, we're always excited to hear where everyone is viewing from today. So if you want to, it's not necessary, but if you want to, please let us know what city, state, or even just a country that you're viewing from today. It's always exciting to hear how much we blanket the earth with our connection. Tony, always great to be with you. Great to see you.
Thank you, Mary. Great to be with you and with our crack broadcast team. We have a couple of new members of our team, both students and volunteers, like me, like Mary. We have Michael and Rachel joining us. So thanks for joining the team. People who would be interested in this are people who are already studying, I guess, Kabbalah, and also people who want to know something about Kabbalah. We get a lot of very, very general questions here, and some very deep ones according to the wisdom itself and the method and so on. When I get those questions, I try to make them as accessible to people who have not learned any Kabbalah from an authentic source. Let's start this out by giving a definition of what Kabbalah is and breaking it down. So this is a definition that comes from Baal HaSulam, the greatest, the preeminent Kabbalist of the 20th century. And he defines Kabbalah really in just one sentence. He says, this wisdom is no more and no less than a sequence of roots which hang down by way of cause and effect in fixed determined rules, weaving into a single goal, described as the revelation of his godliness to his creatures in this world. It's packed. So let me go into the different phrases and try to show what's there. This wisdom, first of all, it's a wisdom. It's a science, but its profundity makes it functionally a wisdom, because it renders an understanding and a grasp to those who study it, delve into it. It's no more and no less. This is precisely what it is. It's not one thing about many. It is a description about a totality, about a complete perception of reality to its limit. It is no more and no less than a sequence of roots which hang down by way of cause and effect. Root is the essence. It is the point of origin. It is the single place out of which all operations emanate. That is, it is the source of reality. And this whole system hangs down, in other words, is expressed through various levels of our perception and of, let's call it material creation as well, by cause and effect, meaning that each level extends a level below it, and that level that is below it is governed by the one above it, and the one above it is governed by the root, and so on and so forth. And these are exactly the same essence, let's say the same force that is expressed on all of these different levels, except that it is expressed in a different form according to the nature of that level or world or level of perception of reality that the perceiver has. By fixed and determined rules. Every level is made out of exactly the same construction. Not only is its root or its source of the same nature, but the way in which it cascades or hangs down or expresses itself on a more and more material level, it does it always by exactly the same mechanism. This mechanism, though, is not just an external mechanism the way that science, material science, looks at things. It does include that, but it goes much deeper than that. It says that these fixed and determined rules weave into a single goal. That's why it speaks about wisdom. Not only does it show how things develop, how they come, let's say, into being or into our perception, and how we can move out of that perception to those higher levels, but it is a goal, meaning that the source itself has put into motion a purpose to our experience, to our life, to our perception. And it describes that purpose that we are trying to attain, that when we do, brings us into contact with the entire system and with the root. And it says that this goal is described as the revelation of his godliness to his creatures in this world. This means that the purpose of our life is to learn how to be able to perceive the love, the intention behind the entire system that I just described, so that we would be able to feel and see the root of our existence and all of reality, even here in this world as a human in our heart. And that is what Kabbalah tunes a person to, trains them towards, and delivers to a person. It is the revelation of the system of nature itself that creates, sustains, and guides life. Okay, Mary, let's go to the questions.
Hey, Tony, great first question related to what you were saying about development to higher levels and perception. Mickey 96, Chasa 99, and Vesic are asking, what or does evolution have consciousness?
What does?
Does evolution have consciousness? This whole development to higher
Yes.
levels.
Mm-hmm. The process is managed by an intention. What we call consciousness now, our definition of consciousness comes from our quality at the lowest rung of this whole system, which is an opposite quality to the one that's impelling this force that is moving us through evolution, is an opposite quality. Our quality, everything that runs us and runs our perception, is the desire to receive for myself. The upper quality, or the root quality, is the desire to bestow without a thought of self. We don't think that way. So what we call consciousness comes out of our operating system, which is different than what it is that we want to perceive. So when we ask the question, does it have consciousness? It has a purpose. It has a law in which it is developing us to this outcome that I described, which is the revelation of his godliness to his creatures in this world. Meaning that force is moving with a, let's call it, intended outcome of good in the process and at the end of this evolution. So from the egoistic point of view, from which our mind is constructed, you could say, yes, it has consciousness, but it's beyond that. It is an expression of a relationship that is creating us and caring for us and bringing us to the fulfillment of our existence.
The next question comes from Need to Know. Great to have you with us, Need to Know. I don't think you've missed a single Q&A. Always great questions.
That proves he needs to know.
He's always back here, or she, should say.
True.
Question is, what do the Kabbalists speak about on fear and trust in the higher power, or do they?
Yes, the key to wisdom is the fear of the Creator. That's what the Kabbalists say. But this fear is not just because of the awesomeness of that there is no force that can stand against this root. That everything is truly in the hands of the law of nature and beyond it. The fear is that we would lose connection with this, that we would somehow feel ourselves only as some cut off individual without any sense of that good that does good towards us, and that we would imagine ourselves to be separated from this force. That is the fear that opens wisdom, because if it means that it's a primary value for us, it means that what we want more than anything else is to connect with this purpose. We want to know how to, and we want this. To lose the desire to want this is the fear that the Kabbalists speak about, in which we lose connection with the only tool that we have for our development, which is desire.
Okay, next we have a question coming on Instagram. Dennis Sarama is asking, I heard Rav, in other words, Dr. Michael Lightman, say today that sweetness is a lie. What is he trying to say here? Thank you.
He's speaking about, and by the way, Rav Lightman, Rav means great, it means teacher, or it's like rabbi, but it's Kabbalists call their teacher Rav. He's speaking about the value system by which truth is found, can be found, and that is through true and false. This is a quality of us meeting the quality of bestowal, that force of bestowal. If we are run by the will to receive, then we judge everything and make all our decisions, movements, and so on, down to our ethical decisions based on what we find sweet or bitter. Meaning, what's good for me? What do I find pleasure for myself in? That is basically the whole thing is false. That premise is not a premise by which we can know and connect with the upper force. Sweet is a lie, in that the truth is that when we begin to have contact with this upper force, we are no longer looking for our own satisfaction. We're looking to do what it does, which is to fulfill the needs of others and of the whole system of creation. That's the truth. And seeking desires that only lead to our own pleasure, that is a lie in terms of the actuality of what reality is like.
Okay, next question is coming from David Mancini. Bonjour, comment ça va?
Bonjour, David.
Great friend, French speaking, very dedicated student. Is a
Well, it's
great.
joie. I wouldn't call it French according to the Parisians.
Québécois, okay. David's question is around how many people on the planet have been able to switch from reception to bestowal, and will everyone eventually make that switch?
Look, it's not about numbers. If you want to know what the percentage is we have to look at our own development. How many of our desires are aimed that way? How much does that intention to do what the upper force does predominate in me? Because there is a complete interdependence of everybody's development based on your development. We depend on you. You depend on me. The responsibility and the perception of the good that we want, it can only be found in the place where we confirm what reality is. So we have to look to our own development. That's where we will see how much of the quality, rather than the number, because it's not a number, being that we are all one soul anyway. So we're looking for the quality of change in that desire. Yeah.
The next question comes from Andrew LeBlanc. So wonderful to see that you're here today, Andrew. Very timely question, Tony. Do you have any practical advice for relating to highly religious family members, especially if they are being particularly pushy during the holidays?
Oh, happy holidays, everybody. I want to wish everyone and their families a good, peaceful, warm, and loving time with your family. And it's a lovely time of year. And if you're with us, I'm really glad that you took the time to do that. Love them. Let them push. What do you care? You know, nobody is allowed to control the development of your connection with the creator, with the, so just love them. Let them do what they need to do. You're not going to change them. They're not going to change you. So have a piece of cake.
Next question, Tony, is from Deborah Lassord. Could you say that consciousness is the programming within the simulation?
Well, there's a lot of, you're using words here that are not words or terms that are used in Kabbalah, and they're not, because of that, they're very generalized, okay? So Kabbalah is very, very specific in the terms that it uses to describe the experience of a person. No, it's not consciousness. Consciousness is a given. Everybody is completely exposed to the truth. The development of the quality of bestowal is the value that's undergoing change in, you could call it a simulation, but it's not a simulation of what? What are we comparing it to? There is a complete system. If you want to think of it as like a like a video game or something, the goal of the video game is to find out what the goal of the game is. Whereas when you play a video game, you already know what the goal is and you're trying to reach it. Here, you're both trying to reach it, but you can't reach it until you know it. So, and the only way to know it is to make changes inwardly that are like the system that surrounds us. The system that surrounds us is made out of the opposite quality to the one that we begin with. So everything that we see and the levels of the game that we move through are dependent on how willing we are to undergo the changes that are demanded at each level that make us more and more like the quality that created the game. The mind or the love or the heart or the intention that created the game to provide us with an adventure. It isn't a simulation. It is. And this is what it is, no more and no less than a sequence of roots that hang down by way of cause and effect in fixed determined rules, weaving into a single goal, and this is the point of the game, which is the revelation of his godliness to his creatures in this world. Okay.
Tony, Reza is asking, can I claim that I have found someone from my previous life, or is it just an illusion?
We're one generation, one soul, expressed as generations, which is a quality, like we're not connected. So the number of people that exist are just a reflection of how egoistic or altruistic we are. The more egoistic we are, the greater the number appears to be of people in this world. But we progress as a single soul expressed as a generation on this level. So no, it's not everybody that you meet is from your last from your last incarnation, because we're all placed in we're all under development together. So it's not imaginary. The system is not just that, oh, there's one person that is part of our last level of development, which you are calling a past life. No, everybody is, and everything. It's that quality dresses differently each time the evolution of our inner state and our inner quality evolves. It's always the same thing. It's always the same root being expressed as it descends, or as we rise. Exactly the same thing becomes clothed differently. That is, the way that we perceive the reality changes. It becomes more and more inclusive as we go, as we rise. So you could say everybody that you meet is from your past life.
Okay, next, Tony, the question comes from Ferris Louis. We have discussed from time to time that the study of Kabbalah is nothing for this physical world. So how can we put priority to the study on top of our daily life with all the urgent needs that require handling?
It's a question of what is the most important thing in your life. If those needs are the number one thing in your life, you will not give it the time that you might if the main thing in your life was to is to study and work and connect with those that are studying and so on, and speed up your evolution. It's a matter of priorities. It is possible to look at all of those necessities, even the necessities of, let's say you have a family, you have children and so on, and you need to supply them with what they need. Well, in that case, you can make that whole process really a part of the work that you're doing in order to evolve towards the quality of the higher system. And you are. If you are doing it in order to be able to raise them, and you're doing it, let's call it selflessly, that love that you feel towards others that you have to provide for is a piece of that quality of the upper world, of the sort of truth of the truth side of true and false. So you are already involved in it, and you will remember that you're involved in it uh, if the goal of reaching it is the most important thing in your life, if that is the purpose of your life. And as a result of that, you will always find time to do it. It doesn't matter how much time, it matters the quality of time that you give to it. Yeah.
Okay, next, Benjamin has a question on the source text. What book should I read that is more useful for me? I like Yehuda Berg's books the most, especially Zohar's Secrets.
Well, we don't endorse any of those books except of the Kabbalah Center, because they're kind of interpretations of things. Best to look directly at the sources. The source that those books come out of is Baal HaSulam, who I quoted at the beginning of the broadcast. You can find source text by by Baal HaSulam and by his direct student, direct disciple, you could call it, Rabash, Baruch Shalom Halevi Ashlag, at our bookstore under the text sections. And that's at KabbalahBooks.info. Maybe you can post it in the chat. You'll find a tremendous selection of things that are really, really accessible and really true to the lineage of Kabbalah, because those two teachers are actual sages, not just somebody talking about the sages. They are sages. So if you find those books by Baal HaSulam and by Rabash in our bookstore, they're the best things for you to read.
Next question comes from King Neri. Are we like the Matrix wherein all of us are connected?
Yes, we are interconnected. We are a single, everything, the only thing that was created is the will to receive. That's it. That's the entire creation. What created that is the will to bestow. So in reality, there only exists the creature and the creator. Creator being the force of bestowal, and the creature being the opposite quality, or the imprint of that quality, which is the will to receive. Everything that we see and feel, but especially eye-opening, everything that we see, including all of the physical universe and everything else that we conceive of as existing, is only the will to receive. It's all only an expression of the will to receive. It's basically the definition of matter in Kabbalah is this quality. So the cosmos is the will to receive. And we are completely interwoven with that reality, and we are the feeling center of that, the connecting point between the upper system and the lower system that can express itself from awareness and emotion, connection, human, all the way through the different levels of reality, that down to the animate level, the animals, to the vegetative level, to the inanimate, the rock and all that. These are all levels of the will to receive, and we are all interwoven with it, and there isn't any bit of it that doesn't affect every other bit of it, because we are a single thing. That quality of how it interconnects for the benefit of the entire system, you could say that system of sustenance that allows the light to sustain all that, you could say that that's like the Matrix. And if we are not doing our role consciously in that, then it's not good for the entire Matrix. It's not good certainly not good for the human level, which we are obviously seeing right now. Everything seems, you can't even present a fact. There is no commonality. And this is having a terrible effect on the animal level and on the vegetative level. And we're seeing human manipulation of food supply and just supply lines, plus what will be supplied. And we're seeing really bad effects of this in the general environment, because we are a matrix, because we are completely and totally interconnected with each other. And any change that you make in your desire to understand how this matrix works and what it is that we can do functionally to bring the quality, to allow this light from the upper system to improve the quality of human relations, and therefore all of the other aspects of nature, it's huge. small changes like that in your desire bring great benefit through the entire matrix. So find out.
Next up, Tony, is a question from Sharon Goldberg. Do soulmates have a special purpose in Kabbalah?
Yeah. Well, first of all, there's the egoistic concept of soulmate, which makes this kind of connection sort of special and rare. And okay, granted, it is special. But the quality that happens in that relationship of feeling the other as yourself, basically, that yes, there's great pleasure in the connection, but it's a shared pleasure. It is something that exists between the two of you and for the benefit of, and it's something that makes whole what appears to be two separate things. This is the evolutionary rule. That is the rule of cause and effect that hangs down by fixed rules. That kind of an interaction is the basic interaction of the real nature of reality. It's something of the higher world felt in its proper place between humans. So what that means is that if that quality exists between people, then they say a man and a woman and the creator between them, or the divinity between them. That is a model for every interaction with every other person in the system. And that's why Kabbalists describe the law, the general law of nature, as love your friend as yourself. Because it is. They are. So that's the governing rule behind evolution that eventually brings us to the revelation of the whole system and us living in it as a simple reality like the one that we live in now.
Okay, next question comes from someone with a bit of a cryptic name, NN3DAAA. But
Wait a minute. That you can open my safe with that.
How did they know? Anyway, it works. Thank you for your question, NN3DAAA. Everybody write that down. So next time you're headed to Tony's. How many times do we reincarnate?
Well, until we reach complete correction. The whole process is called reincarnation. Now, how we conceive of reincarnation, again, comes from our egoistic perception and within time and space and separation. And that's what the egoistic mind is like. It always looks at things that way, measures and evaluates them that way. So it'll seem like life, death, rebirth, life, death. But it's really a continual process that happens inside of us when the quality of our perception and development takes a major change. That's already a reincarnation that is rising to a higher level of perception that in your heart is no longer, you're not the same person. You're not governed by the same forces. You're free of more of the egoistic pull on you and guided more by the real governing force behind reality. That's called a reincarnation. So as long as our perception is predominantly the perception of the will to receive, we will see this continuum as though it were broken into slices, and we'll call it physical life and death and dressing in a different physical body. But every time we evolve and change, we are dressing onto a higher level, and everything feels different to us. We may even be looking at the same world, but it is not the same world in the sense that it is not filled with as much illusion as the level that we just evolved out of, held for us. So yeah, I'll leave it there.
Okay, next, interesting viewer name, interesting question. Poet's Rear is asking, as a Kabbalist, can you perceive a nearly special person somehow already turning inside out and becoming increasingly dysfunctional because of the incompatibility with the world and service to self?
Read that again. It's complicated, and I want to catch it.
Sure. As a Kabbalist, can you perceive a neurally special person somehow already turning inside out and becoming increasingly dysfunctional because of the incompatibility with the world and service to self?
No, that is emotional illness. That kind of a reaction would be prior to Kabbalah, prior to grasping what it is really about, and how it evolves us, how it develops us. Now, it depends on what you mean by increasingly dysfunctional. There is a phenomenon when your value changes that you don't value the things that you thought of as the most important functions that you could do, or things that you could pursue. When your values change, you become attracted to other things. So the system that that supported you, or your environment, and your attraction to the environment that is now undergoing change in your heart because you're valuing something else, yeah, you will not want to function so much in that. But if it brings you to a standstill, and it's probably not as a result of any Kabbalistic stuff. I mean, there is there this brings up another topic, and I don't know whether it's really in your question, and the topic is prayer. The egoistic perception tells us that we are the master of all of our choices and everything, and that by our own strength we'll raise ourselves. We'll pull ourselves up by pulling on our own necks. We can't do that. We are an opposite quality that never changes. What we're looking for is to become exposed to more and more of what Kabbalah calls light. It's like a remedy that because of our desire, great desire, and the growing of that desire, changes what we want and value, what we are willing to change inside of us, and so on, where we can't find the strength to do that ourselves. We cannot. We have to turn to the upper force. We have to ask for help at each level, because no help exists anywhere but in the governing law, the principle that runs everything. So there is a dependence on this upper force, and the upper force is asking us to get into a relationship with it, like a really direct relationship, the same way you get into a relationship with a person in your heart. If you find yourself being dysfunctional, good, you're finding truth. You don't run anything, right? There is no other force that exists other than the Creator. And we are all part and parcel of that, but we are the part that has no awareness of it. And we can't change it because, in a sense, we don't really exist. We are a quality that wants to undergo change until we see the truth is that this thing that we're calling me or we, which is just the will to receive for myself, is not the actual reality. The actual reality is giving, is bestowal, is the quality of the upper force. So there's no place that the ego can turn for help except to the upper force, or to an environment that a person develops with other people, in which that quality of giving becomes the most important value in that environment. It's a key part to the study of Kabbalah, where eventually people begin to work with a fixed group of other people. Why fixed? Because you need to know that everybody who you're working with wants only this thing. So the principle behind the society, small society, maybe it's 10 people, maybe it's a little less than that, is only the reaching and helping the others reach this kind of a connection and perception. So with turning to the Creator and with finding the correct environment, one does not become dysfunctional. Okay.
Hey, Tony, we have viewers from all over the world, as we always do. So I like to share some of those locations. Rotterdam, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Texas, the Kingdom of Eswatini, Tennessee,
I've been there.
Oh, the Kingdom of Eswatini,
No, I'm kidding.
Tennessee, Colorado, Netherlands, Chandler's Ford in the UK, Vermont, Romania, Utah, Cuernavaca, Mexico, Portland, Ireland, Hamburg, Minnesota, Jacksonville, Florida, France, Austin, Texas, Madrid, India, another viewer from Colorado, Arkansas, New Jersey, Western North Carolina, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, Accra, Ghana, Virginia, New York City, Philippines, London, Iran, Finland, Colima, Mexico, and Indiana. Thank you, everyone. It's not too late. If you still want to share your location, I'll read a few more before we end the broadcast. Next question is from Aurelio Munoz. Is love your neighbor as yourself and there is none else besides him a good meditative practice to apply in our daily lives to achieve adhesion with the Creator?
Contemplative. I don't know what you mean by meditative, but if you attempt to keep, we should be looking to feel that. First, we know it's a kind of concept that you have in the mind, but what you want to be able to do is to actually live in that, and to be looking for how can I, and then what you will get presented with, and this is what I mean by contemplate. What you'll be presented with is how you can't, and how we don't love others as ourselves. We don't identify with them as though they are the self. And we also do not, it's very hard to hold on to that in the beginning, to hold on to there is none else besides him. That everything is actually an expression of the root of reality. Everything, including even my own desires and thoughts and so on, and it's all being done according to a purpose. The purpose of the Creator, the upper force. So it's very, very hard to hold on to this, which is good to come to recognize as you go through everything that you're going through, the necessity for help. And it creates in us not a better idea or greater ability. What this contemplative practice might do for you is to evolve your need to find that. The desire for that grows and grows and grows. And desire is the compelling, the motivating force behind reality. Either the desire of the upper one, which is that all goodness, that his godliness should be revealed to us, even in this world. Or the desire that we would have to help him fulfill this. Without a desire for it, we won't remember, we won't try, we won't correct. So the fact that you find that you can't do it over and over and over again builds a spiritual desire inside of you. And that's in a waking state with all of your faculties, without meditation, without separating any part of reality at all, without closing a door to the world, but by complete engagement, seeking the quality that we call the Creator. Yeah.
The next question comes from Vasilis. How should a student approach learning Kabbalah if coming from another spiritual tradition like Kundalini Yoga? What is your advice if the idea of leaving that tradition is made difficult by them?
Okay, so there's two things in this question. One is, what do you do if there's difficulty? And the other part is, if you have been working in a spiritual path, how can you learn Kabbalah? So I want to answer that first. First of all, in order to learn it, you have to work in its terms, by its terms. We should not, in any spiritual path, assume that another spiritual path is talking, well, it may be talking in general about the same thing, but it is not the same thing. So we need to not try not to understand what you are receiving from Kabbalah in terms of what you have learned before. Don't try to fit it into a preconception of spirituality, because everything that you've been through before is foothill to this path, to this mountain. It's all good. It's more or less, but usually valid. And it is according to the development of your desire as to when a person comes to the direct relationship with the path of truth, the revealed path of truth. So you need to do Kabbalah on its own terms. And as far as if someone is making it difficult for you, well, how much do you want it? Where do you think your good lies? And I said this before, nobody has the right to tell you, to prevent you from developing your soul. I mean, it's in the hands of the Creator, and the pushback that you get will also develop your desire for the right thing. And with the right quantum of desire, you will break into the path in a correct way on its correct terms.
Tony, Deborah is asking for a friend. Was Jesus a Kabbalist?
There are no Kabbalistic writings by Jesus. He did study in the Sanhedrin school, which was a Kabbalistic school. There is some record of that. You can see, or Kabbalists can see, that the meaning, the structure behind some of the things that you find in the New Testament can only be explained in terms of Kabbalah. But you need to understand that Kabbalah is the root of every, let's call it Western religion, and also some of the Eastern as well. And Kabbalah is not a religion. It is a wisdom. It is a science of connection, direct connection with the upper force, at the point at which we humanity completely lost this awareness and connection. The destruction of the second temple, well, the first, but also the second temple, meaning that the quality of connection with the upper force was completely different. It was not a religion. It was a relationship. And at the point when all that fell, this is when religions came to be. So Judaism, Christianity, and then later Islam are all effects of the loss of direct connection. So everything that rolls through Western religion or spiritual values is Kabbalistic. And I'll leave it there.
Tony Maricruz Juarez is asking, is there some Kabbalah knowledge in the gospel?
Well, I just answered that. If I can't be specific, about what's in the gospel, I'll just say again that many things that seem particularly mysterious can be, sometimes they line up with the underlying principles of how roots and branches and blah blah blah, but not everything. And it's whereas you will find in the 5 books of Moses a much closer, almost one-to-one system of memory devices for the actual structure of the soul. This is, it's related. It's all one family. It's all got to do with how much light can we take? How much interrelatedness do we truly want? How much will we be completely like the quality of bestowal? But it's one family and one reality expressed according to the needs of a culture, the development of that culture, et cetera, et cetera. It's sustenance for everybody according to their need. There are individuals within any of those traditions that have a desire directly connected to the source itself. And they move through their religion, like they go through the roof of their church or the synagogue or mosque. That's just an analogy, but you rise out of the limited desire of how the menu of religion presents the reality of love and of the Creator. So there's no limitation for the person's connection to this thing. It is not according to religion. It precedes it. In other words, it's a higher level than that, but the lower level has qualities of that in it.
The next question comes from Rachel McBride. Is it correct to reach out to the friends and teachers about pride, or reach out only to the Creator about pride?
Are you like confessing? Oh, I'm so prideful. I'm so egoistic. Hey, we already know that. Everybody, that's all that we are. And all we have is a hard time changing that, which I've explained before. It's useful. It's part of the whole process. It develops the correct desire. That's how nature always works with us. Yeah, only relate with that, with the Creator. Get into a dialogue with the Creator about that. With your friends, just support them. Give them a good example. Be or pretend to be that quality. Think about what they need. Try to give them what they need. Raise their mood. Act the way you would like to act. And that will also help.
Hey, Ferris Louis is asking, there is so much sustenance in the world, which is all light of bestowal. Why do some people gain more and some gain less, even though we are all selfish in one way or another?
I don't quite understand the question. I need the first part again.
Sure, there is so much sustenance in the world, which is all light of bestowal.
Oh, stuff like food and shelter and that. Is that how you take it, Mary?
That's how I take it, sure.
Why do you get more or less? Well, everything in reality is there to to aim you, push you one way or another towards the actual reality, towards your correction. So you get only what will advance you towards that correction, that alignment with the revelation of higher and higher levels of connection, and say divinity. That's what connection is. We don't get stuff, uh, wealth or poverty, uh, for a bad reason. We only get it for a good reason. And the medicine taken, let's say wealth, given to a person who requires poverty, well, let's do it the other way. Poverty, wealth may look like something really fantastic that makes our life easier, and then we'd be able to pursue uh, spirituality. But wealth has a completely opposite effect as well. It's a poison in a sense that can be used either like a holistic medicine that gives you a piece of the illness, you know. So you don't get any pleasure from it. You need to look for something else, because up until now all you desired was to fulfill your every wish and pleasure. And then you realize that is not at all the source of pleasure. Whereas a person who is in poverty or has less, uh, is not looking for those things necessarily, uh, and can use the lack that they feel directly in their work towards reaching the goal. Both people are being treated equally according to the real prime directive of our existence, which is to evolve us to a place of being able to reveal, perceive, feel, live in, and act like that upper force. And it's not just money or food, it's everything. Everything works together in order to evolve us, no matter how we evaluate it in our egoistic perception.
Tony, the next question, I think might relate back to what you were saying earlier about the still and vegetative and animal, actually. Sandra Ackle wants to know, what does it mean in Kabbalah when they talk about desire at the still, vegetative, animal, and speaking level? How do we understand this in a practical way?
It has to do with the intensity of desire for change, for spiritual change, to evolve. There is the least amount of desire. It's just describing your own levels. If you are inanimate, if you have an inanimate, and none of us do really, an inanimate level. Not anyone who's studying doesn't have that. Let's say look at the general society, the world. That's an inanimate level of spiritual desire. That stays the same, and it's only looking for solutions in material answers, in politics, and in material actions, and geopolitical strategies, and all that. It never gets off that level. There is a desire for answers, spirituality, on the vegetative level, which now is more willing to change and is looking for those opportunities. There's the animate that will move, it will take upon itself the desire to move, and will by that desire move and make changes within ourselves. And then there is the level called speaking, which is already a connection with the upper force, which is what our real goal as humans is. And that one is guided completely by the upper force, and we agree with it and feel that that is our own awareness, our own life, and so on. That our own desire is exactly the same as the desire of the upper force, or of the creator. These are levels of willingness within a person. And so let's end there. Thank you, friends, very much for the really good questions. And Mary has a couple of announcements.
Hey, thanks, Tony. A few more locations I want to share. First, Montreal and Quebec, Canada, Ohio, London, Alabama, Barcelona, Spain, Brazil, Morocco, San Francisco, Los Cabos, Mexico, Jacksonville, Illinois, San Antonio, Texas, Botswana, and South Africa. Thank you very much for sharing where you're tuning in from today. A few announcements. If you would like to join KabU and you're not already a KabU member, then we do invite you to join. You can see the links in the chat. You'll gain access to several Kabbalah courses from beginners to advanced. You'll be part of the world's largest Kabbalah community. You can ask instructors questions anytime in a student forum. You have access to a KabU exclusive weekly webinar, and also you get access to the next Kabbalah Reveal course coming up with Tony on January 14th. You can also support our content. We're all volunteers, so any contributions are greatly appreciated. And you can also become a KabU member and get access to all the KabU courses and be in a very thriving, like-minded spiritual community. And thank you again. There are so many questions, Tony. We didn't get to all of them, and wishing everyone a very happy holiday and wishing you many blessings. And thank you to our tech team. They're always amazing. We couldn't do it without them. Great to be with you, Tony.
Yeah. Happy holiday, everybody. Thank you for coming.